Geoff staying on for our panel, and I'll call up our additional panellists now. This next panel is the future of innovation hubs in the central river city, and so joining Geoff for the panel, please welcome the Mayor of the City of Canterbury, Bankstown, Khal Asfour, Belinda Hutchinson AC, the Chancellor of the University of Sydney, Amanda Larkin is the Chief Executive of the South Western Sydney Local Health District, and our Moderator, the Chief Executive Officer of WSP, Guy Templeton.
Thank you very much and good morning, and thanks very much, Geoff, for that fantastic overview which really primes this discussion. And let's just get straight into it. Geoff, innovation hubs sounds interesting. Just what is one? We have 3 cities. Are there exemplars from which we're building?
Look, in the central city, it really is about Greater Westmead, Parramatta. There are some conditions precedent that the Commission's been looking at around the world for what we need to achieve for a globally significant innovation hub. They need to have at least 3 universities in them. They need to have the national innovation leader in them. If you're in Germany, it would be the Fraunhofer. If you're in Australia, it's the CSIRO. You need to have a start-up and a scale-up capability. You probably need to have at least 2 or 3 things that you're famous for on the biscuit tin globally. At Westmead, I think it's probably solving kids' cancer. There may be others, but that's pretty compelling. You've probably got to have about 50,000 jobs, and you've probably got to have about 20 global brands. So for each of our 3 big ones, and I might say these only work if they're in a hub and spoke system. So the central river city, obviously Macquarie Park is critical. To the south, I don't think we've got the link down to Bankstown and to Sydney Airport as well connected in the past as we need to in the future. So that's really what we're talking about in making this real.
Terrific. So, Belinda, university is the new black, we've heard this morning, which is great. So the University of Sydney obviously investing heavily in Westmead. You're looking at 25,000 students by 2050. What can we learn from that? And maybe what are a few of the things that you think have gone wrong in the past that we need to be keeping in mind as we move forward and build these new innovation hubs?
Yeah, no, I think Geoff's absolutely nailed it in terms of what do we need to have a real innovation hub. And I think the reason we're so excited about Parramatta Westmead is because you've already got an innovation hub there in essence. But what you need government investment and support. You need education anchors, as in universities, and you have to have business and industry engagement. And I think if you look at Parramatta Westmead, that's where we see we've got all of those things coming together. Sydney University's been there for a very long time already. We already have over 1,200 staff at Westmead Parramatta. We have 2,000 students. So we've got an enormous base to start from. We've been there since the very beginning. It was the University of Sydney Faculty of Medicine and Health, which actually was key in partnership with the government to actually build Westmead Hospital. So I actually don't think things have gone wrong. I think what we've done is we've seen a progression over time. So what have we done in the last 5 years to set ourselves up for success? In the last 5 years, the University of Sydney has actually invested $80 million at Westmead. We're a key investor in the new acute services building, where we're going to have a number of floors for our research, for our teaching. We've invested in the new Westmead Innovation Centre. So we're actually building on what we already have. And then our plan is, and we're in negotiation with the government, to build a whole new campus, which will be a comprehensive university. So a comprehensive university looking at not just medicine and health, but looking at arts, business, sciences, engineering, all of the above. And we've got a number of academic themes which I think are really exciting and absolutely fit with what Geoff spoke about. So we're going to be looking at artificial intelligence and data and sciences and how that applies in society. You know, when you think about 90% of the data that has been created in the world has been created in the last 2 years. We just need to really get a focus in on AI, and we're doing a lot of work already on our Camperdown campus on that. The other areas we're going to focus on is advanced manufacturing. We've got some fantastic partnerships already with companies like Thales, like GE, Microsoft, IBM. We would see them as forming part of the advanced manufacturing hub, some of those partners at Westmead Parramatta. And then the other issue which I think is really important is power and participation. In Western Sydney, you have over 250 languages spoken. You've got an extraordinarily diverse population, but you have some significantly disadvantaged communities. And we want our arts and social sciences programs to look at the power and participation and look at what are the radical inequality solutions we can come up with working with communities in Western Sydney. So those are the three new academic themes which will play already to the health and medicine themes that we've already got working out there. So I sort of see it as a progression. I think you build on what you've got, and I think we're doing that, and we're doing it very well, the state government. Thanks.
So in terms of building on what we've got, Khal, if you have a look at Canterbury Bankstown, an area of great potential, what are the seeds you need? What are the infrastructure projects that need to be there for the area to really take off?
I agree with Geoff when we're talking about the need for a university, the need for transport, the need for health facilities, and the potential at Bankstown in the CBD is there for all to see. We only last night at the council meeting approved the Western Sydney University City campus. That's going to be 10,000 students. We've got a hospital announcement I'm hoping to be announced, in the next few months, where we're going to have a brand new hospital potentially in the CBD of Bankstown. We've got the metro, as mentioned earlier, that is coming to Bankstown. So all those ingredients are there for the recipes there. And that hopefully will lead the way for more universities and potentially more hospitals, whether public or mainly private. But I think what's important is for innovation to succeed, you need them all obviously working together and collaborating, but you also need the investment from government. And I don't think there's enough government partnership with private business, for example. And my example is the metro. We heard Chris's vision for Bankstown to Glenfield. I think, the government sometimes is building for the now and not for the future. And if you were to underground the metro at Bankstown Station with a view to expanding it, because we know one day it is going to expand down to Glenfield or to Liverpool, why not do it now? Why not invest the money up front? And I think that will have major innovative benefits for Bankstown and for the central city, where you have a city that is connected and not have a railway line or a metro line smack bang dividing it in half. A lot of what Geoff said I agree with, but I just noticed a lot of it had to do with from Parramatta to the Aerotropolis. The central city actually includes the inner west and Canterbury Bankstown as well. And I think it's important that they're factored into the thinking as to how we can create mini innovation hubs in our city as well to bring those jobs. We've got 150 of those 250 languages spoken in our city. We've got people that are ready to find work and to be trained in work. And I guess one of the things I think is we're focusing a lot on tertiary education, and of course that's important, but we need to think about vocational education or TAFE education. And I think there's been a lot of money ripped out of TAFE, and we need to think about investing in TAFE, not to offer the floristry courses while they're important, but to offer courses in advanced manufacturing, to offer courses and give people skills to be able to get jobs in companies that at the moment there's nowhere you can go and be trained for. They're actually training their staff themselves and getting RTO registration to be able to do that. I think it's important and imperative for us if we do want to be that smart city, Sydney being that smart city and every sort of central city pulling its weight. We need to think about that as well, how we can build universities but also TAFEs of the future that offer courses for those that want jobs in fields that currently there's nowhere you can go to be trained up or skilled up in. So I think all those ingredients are important, but we all need to think about how how all parts of Sydney can contribute to the vision, and not just Parramatta and the Aerotropolis and the CBD. I think there needs to be some work looked at how we can do that together.
So let's come back to education in a minute, maybe with Belinda, with a tertiary view. It'd be interesting to balance that as to whether we've got the right balance between higher education, vocational training. But Amanda, you run a large area health service, and some of the conversation has been around the need for partnerships, how people work together. What do you see there from a health perspective? And I think it's difficult to not talk a little bit about COVID as well if you run a health district. There are obviously some downsides, but what are some of the upsides that we should be focusing on?
Okay. So I thought I might be able to get through a discussion without talking COVID, can I just tell you people? Possibly.
Sorry, no.
Possibly not, though. But it is an opportunity for me to say what, as a community, both locally, nationally and internationally, we've come to realise is that is the centrality of health, and not at what we always think about as the acute end of health, but what will actually bring us to our knees is public health issues, and the pandemic has demonstrated that. And what we've also come to really clearly understand, I think, as a community and as a society, is the direct relationship between health and economics. And yes, we've talked about it, but we've seen it at the forefront. And what does that actually mean? And getting the balance right, and the challenge for government over the last 9 to 10 months is about how we ensure the health of the community whilst knowing that the economy is absolutely being rocketed by what's actually happening. And I think we can confidently say in New South Wales that we've been able to manage through the process, and that the health of the community has remained a priority, which has been a fantastic outcome. But when I think about precincts, and yes, there's been lots of talk, and I suppose I'm not going to get into what I perceive is a competitive argument about it. The precincts that exist across New South Wales or across the Sydney Basin are all and should be complementary in relation to the delivery of innovation and development in their communities. And I think we can see that if we understand a couple of what I consider to be three key things. The precincts need clear vision about what it is that they want to achieve. And if we are sharp around that, and we are very clear about what it is that we want those precincts to focus on, because can I say to you, health and the community are broad and big and complex, and we can do that and do that well. That shouldn't be a problem. The second one is about the partnerships, and that's the question you asked me about. And it's interesting, we can say lots of people work together, we actually sit in a room and we can have discussions, but true partnership is where we actually can think about collaboratively what our vision is, about what we want to deliver, how we want to deliver it, and who needs to be there. And Khal, you spoke about the issue of education. When I think about the precincts, the role between health, universities, TAFE, other government agencies who have a really significant role to play in the precincts, like transport, like waterways, etc., are really central to the decision-making about what we do with the precincts. Local government is absolutely central in all the ones that I've got, because I've really got about 3 in southwestern Sydney, for a population of about well over 1 million people now. Local government is central to that decision-making, because the precincts become urban shapers. They become, you know, a point of, people gravitate to it. So the partnerships are not just about people talking about the vision, but actually shaping that. How will we work together? What are the roles that we play? How can we contribute to what the precinct does and how it operates? And not just in money, but in status and how they collaborate together. And the other one, though, I think is really important. The precincts actually have to deliver. So there's a lot of discussion about precincts and what it is that we want to do, but we've actually got to be able to deliver some outcomes. Is it around research? Is it around innovation? Is it around what's really central to me is the health of the community? So can we translate the work and the innovation and the development of the precincts into actual delivery, i.e. making changes in the community that they're working in, is to me the central thing. And you've got to have all three. And when you don't have all three lined up, when you don't have the partners well lined up together in terms of what you want to do and how you want to do it, then it can't operate.
So underpinning all of this is skills, and Khal's put a good challenge on the table. Is the TAFE system serving us well enough where we want to go? Belinda, from a university's perspective, how do you look at the different sectors within education? Do we have the balance right? What do we need to accelerate?
Look, I think the TAFE sector has been underinvested, and I think we'd all agree with that. There has been a real problem there, and I'm really pleased that the government has, a study underway with Peter Shergold and David Gonski doing a significant review on that. And I think we're all going to be looking forward to receiving the outcome of that report and recommendations on how we invest. We're very keen to work with the TAFE sector and provide vocational training. We're happy to have students who start in that sector and move across to us. Those who start in our sector and move over to that, if that's what they want to do. And I think that's, where the university sector needs to work very closely with vocational trainers to make sure that we do have a partnership. And when I think Geoff's put the point really well. At Westmead Parramatta, it's not just about Sydney University. Western Sydney universities out there. We've got Macquarie. We've got a whole range of other universities that we look to work in partnership with. Yes, there's competition between us all, but we can work, and we can work very well together. You think about the government initiative on the Quantum Academy, which was announced this week. $25 million from the state government for Macquarie, UTS, University of New South Wales and the University of Sydney to work together on quantum computing, quantum design in this state. That's a fantastic opportunity for us to work together. So I totally agree with Matt. It's all about those partnerships, and at Westmead Parramatta will be about partnerships as well.
And Geoff had mentioned, I was pleased to hear you talking about clean tech, because this is taking one of the biggest challenges the world faces and turning that into an opportunity in Western Sydney. There's not a lot of talk about climate in city deals, not a lot of talk about Indigenous in city deals either. We've had two 40-degree days recently. Western Sydney's hot. It's a heat sink. Surely, if we're going to be doing more around climate, there needs to be a climate theme through the whole of the development of Western Sydney. What are you seeing? Are you seeing initiatives, or are we falling short? Is there anybody on the panel?
Sorry, I thought that was directed at Geoff. We're working with all local governments with a resilience strategy in relation to climate change. We're looking at different ways that we can incorporate that in our strategic planning, where we want our parks, how we can deliver these things, tree planting and the like. So councils seriously do have a vision to incorporate this, but again, it's reliant upon investment from government, and government having a clear vision and leading the way. Councils can't do it on their own, and I think there are other cities around the world that do it a lot better than us, and we can learn from them. But I think it's an opportunity for us to incorporate potentially the way that we change our business models, the way that we change the way that we work in between government, between private industry, to be able to deliver that together. But I think without that leadership from federal government and state government, then it's going to be hard work for local government to do it on its own.
Amanda.
Yeah, look, I think one of the central issues when we talk about innovation hubs, when we talk about the development of health services in the West, when we talk about universities, and I'd like to come back and make a comment about education if I can. The issue of the livability of the West has to be central to our planning and our thinking and our development. If it's not, I'm telling you, we're going to lose a whole kind of group of people who won't want to live there in the longer term or move there or whatever. And part of that has to be the climate and the temperature of the West. Without question, if you look at climate on a day-to-day basis, the West is at least between 7 to 5 degrees higher on a hot day. all right, the impact it has on schools, on education, on people's recreational activities, but also it's the principle of would I want to live there and raise my family in those kind of temperatures. So how we incorporate climate strategies, whether it be trees, and Geoff, you talked about the whole waterways, which is a really untapped area of the West, has to be central to how we plan and think about the development.
Geoff?
Look, it's a common refrain. I actually think local government are way in front of the other two levels of government at the moment. I think the work that's been done in the last few years at a policy level is really quite significant. I noticed that the famous Dr. Sarah Hill is in the room now ready to speak, and I'm sure she'll talk about this afternoon. You can't have a Western Parkland city without parks, and you can't really have parks without trees. We're going to need, I think, Sarah, double the amount of water per capita in Western Sydney to Eastern Sydney. Surely we're not going to pump wastewater from Leppington or from even further west, the Western Sydney Airport, back into one of the three big ocean outfalls. Surely this is the opportunity for us to think about multi-utilities, to think about indirect or direct potable reuse, the whole question about Prospect Reservoir and so on. But the policy base at local government's really quite strong. What we've now got to do is just invest.
Great. Look, that brings us about time. So just a rapid-fire finish. All of this is great. How do we move faster? One quick thought from each panellist, please.
Investment by government in each of the, I guess, different precincts to make sure these innovation hubs and, these thought bubbles actually become reality. Without that, we're just going to be scratching the surface and, we'll be here in 5 or 10 years' time talking about the same thing.
Clear vision for each precinct. We can work together. Yes, there is a good element of competition, but clear vision and collaboration.
You've got to move from project to place. And if we ever see another photo of the Harbour Bridge and the Opera House with fireworks on top of it as Brand Sydney, we should all scream. We should be showing wonderful young people inventing the future of the world as the image of Sydney, not being a pretty city. That's our greatest strength and our current greatest weakness.
I like that. And lastly, Belinda.
And I would agree with Amanda. I think it's about partnerships on these precincts. It's about having that vision and having a partnership. I think also the approval processes, we need to speed them up. We really do.
Excellent. Well, please join with me in thanking our panellists, Khal, Belinda, Amanda and Geoff. Thank you very much.